Okay, welcome to the Addison Township Board meeting. Today is January 11th at 6 o'clock, and this meeting shall be held electronically under Public Act 228 of 2020. The Addison Township offices, of course, are located at 1440 Rochester Road. I think we'll start with the pledge first. If we have a flag there, Chuck, we'll let you start with the pledge, okay? We can all...
Yes.
Go right ahead, Chuck.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty for all.
That's for all. Okay, and Ed was supposed to do the prayer there, but I don't see him yet. So, anyways. We'll start with roll call, and everybody has to announce, I guess, where you're at, just the city, the county, and what state, I guess.
Ready, Chuck Sargent.
Yes, 552 Deer Point, Leonard, Michigan, Addison Township, County of Oakland, USA.
Linda Garrett.
Present, Addison Township, County of Oakland, State of Michigan.
Karen Geibel.
Present, Addison Township, Oakland County.
Listed time, Ed Brightfield.
Ta-da, I'm here. Yes, Ed Brightfield, 3303 Curtis Road, Leonard, Michigan.
Lori Fisher.
Present, Addison Township, Oakland County, Michigan.
Bennett, present, Oakland County, Addison Township. Bruce Pearson.
Present, Bonita Springs, Lee County, Florida. Okay.
Oh.
Just had to come down here and see if there was still sunshine or not. So, anyways, we have roll call finished. Okay.
Sorry about that.
Any announcements? No announcements. Department reports, as usual, available in my office. Finance report, petitions. No petitions. Order of business. Approval of the agenda.
I'm getting quite a bit of feedback. Does everybody else, everybody else have their microphone?
Yeah, we'll have to turn off the...
I'll go ahead and make the motion to approve the agenda.
I'd like to make the motion we approve the agenda as written.
Okay. Well, Pauline started that, and would you like to second it, Ed? And okay, got to turn your headset on there, Ed, or your speaker. Can't hear you. There.
I will second it.
Thank you. Okay. I'm not the only one in remedial classes, I guess. Okay. So, anyways, we do have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, could we have roll call on that, please?
Ed Brightfield.
Yes.
Linda Garrett.
Yes.
Chuck Sargent.
Yes.
Karen Geibel.
Yes.
Lori Fisher.
Yes.
Bennett, yes. Supervisor Pearson.
Yes. Okay, we'll move on to the consent agenda.
This is an easy consent agenda this time. It's just consists of December 21st, 2020 minutes. Also, bills as paid for December.
Any comment from the board?
I'll make a motion to...
Go ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
And I will second it.
And who was it that seconded it?
I can say I did. I can say I did.
Okay, I just trying to put it out so people hear. So it was the motion was by Treasurer Fisher and the second was by Trustee Brakefield. Can we have roll call on that, please, if there's no comments?
Pauline? I don't know if it's important, but there's a typo on page 8 of the minutes in Trustee Springfield's motion for the SAD reimbursement. It's not a big deal. I just thought I'd bring it up.
Thank you, Linda. I'll change that. Karen Geibel,
Yes.
Linda Garrick,
Yes.
Chuck Sargent,
Yes.
Chuck,
He said yes.
Ed Brakefield,
Yes.
Lloyd
Yes.
Fisher,
Yes.
Bennett, yes. Supervisor Pearson,
Yes. Okay, we'll move on to item number 2, which is the 2021-22 budget work session. Get everything situated here. Okay, before you, we have the budget. I think everybody's got a copy of the budget. What I usually do is I go through page by page, but if you have something that you want to bring up, just bring it up on that item on whatever page we're on, and let me know and we'll discuss it, okay? We can start out with page, yes.
Before we proceed, I just have 2 general questions. How long has the current budget format been used?
Well, as long as I've been here, I don't know, I couldn't tell you what it was before 2008.
Okay, because it appears to me to be outdated. It is somewhat non-user friendly, and some of the calculations do not compute as they should compute. The second question is, if the chair would, could you provide a brief overview of what the township process is for the budget preparation?
Well, first of all, what we do is we go through every division, okay? And we decide what it takes to run that division during that year, okay? And we go through past history so we know what it cost us and what projects we want to do, and then we fill the numbers in so that we can meet those without having to come back and do a realignment of the budget. Sometimes we do have a little extra in there, but that's for emergencies. And a lot of times we never spend the money because we get a lot of volunteers and we get a lot of donations and different things like that. So our budget, even though we would have maybe spent that money by the end of the year, we don't spend the money because we have other things that come into play. Lori Fisher, she knows exactly how much money we have coming in for revenue, and she knows exactly how the budget has to be kept so that we don't run out of money. Okay, simple as that. But I'm not sure what the questions are. It's just that we go through past history of what we plan on doing in this township and what it takes to get us through the whole year without having to do a whole new realignment on the budget. Generally, we have enough in there and we get what we need to get done by law, and we try to spend as little as we possibly can. So I'm not sure what your question is, but
No, thank you. That gives me a overview. And when I hear you use the term "we," my assumption is then that you have internal work sessions like team meetings or meetings between the clerk, the treasurer, the supervisor in preparation for the budget.
we put out and ask everybody what they need for their budget in their division. And we put that all together, and then we create the budget, correct?
All right, so there are no planning sessions then internal to the township. It's sent to each department, who then fills in a blank, returns it, and then we have a consolidation of the budget requests.
That's what we're doing right now. Every division has had a chance to tell us what they want to tweak in their budget. And then we put the budget back, and then it's presented to the board, and that's where we tweak it.
Yes, well, being a new trustee, I'm trying to get a overview of what the process is. So the answer to the question, any internal sessions, is no, there are none. The budget goes out, somebody throws in an arbitrary number, and the clerk, as an example, will go through her expenses and tweak it and then submit it back. And each department does the same. And then we have a consolidation or a roll-up of the departmental proposed budget. And that becomes then the proposed budget for the fiscal year X for the township, correct?
The clerk has certain things that have to be done by law, and it costs a certain amount of things. She puts those into her budget. The treasurer also has certain things by law that she has to get into the budget, and she puts those into the budget. I have certain things that the supervisor has to have in the budget, and I plug those in. Now, if there are any extra things or anything like that, someone can then present that, and it can be discussed at the board. But there are certain things that we have to do by law, and if you look at our budget, I don't think we've ever been outlandish on any of our the three positions, the clerk, the treasurer, the supervisor. I think what you see in the budget is what we all plug in. Now, if the treasurer has something that she wants to plug in, she can plug something in there, and then it can be discussed at the board meeting, and I think that's how it's always been done.
Sure. And then as we proceed through the budget review, as monitored by the chair, it's a page-by-page review. And if someone has a question on the estimated revenues or on the other side, the expense side, the appropriation, then we just ask the question for discussion. Correct?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you. I yield. Thank you.
Okay. We're back on the budget now. We'll go through the budget page by page, and feel free to tell me what your wishes are in the budget or what they aren't. Okay. Does everybody have a budget in front of them that they can go through? We'll go through by pages. Is everybody in agreement? Okay.
I have a budget.
Okay, we'll go through page 1. Does anybody have any questions on page 1?
I have a question on page 1.
Yes, go right ahead.
So my question is, do we have a fee schedule for building, heating, and electrical permits? And if so, where would I access that?
Yes, we do have one, and it's in the building department. Okay, and the board approved that quite a few years ago. There, for many years, we never had an increase, and then I think about probably 4 years ago, we then got ourselves in line with the other townships, and we have done a study on it, and we're right in the middle of the pack of all the surrounding areas as far as our fees.
Okay, thank you.
That fee schedule, as a follow-up question, Mr. Chair, that's subject to board approval.
Yes.
How do we access that fee schedule?
It's in the, if you go on our website, you can see all the fee schedules.
Okay, thank you.
Or if you have any questions, come in and see the building official or Jamie. Jamie is the one that, the deputy supervisor. She's in charge of the building department as far as all the fees, and she'll explain everything to you as far as what the fees are.
Yes. Do I have access to the building?
Well, you can call her on the phone, or she will get it to you. I'm just waiting for the governor to open up. When she opens up, we'll open up.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. On page 1, does anybody have any questions on page 1?
I would just like to comment and say that our revenue has increased, and I'm glad to see it.
Yes, it has. Our revenue has increased, and like Jamie has been doing an excellent job on getting grants, not only for our local businesses, but for the township also. And I think Lori will attest that our status is in pretty darn good shape as far as the treasury is concerned. We've been able to get an awful lot of assistance from the county and the state, and it has dramatically helped our budget. Okay, we'll go on just to page 2 then. Does anybody have
a question on page 2? The question is the state revenue sharing. My understanding is that's based on sales tax. And if that understanding is correct, is it anticipated to have a lower revenue sharing this upcoming fiscal year?
Most people would have thought that, but I'll let the treasurer, Lori Fisher, answer that. And I think that the state actually advised that it wasn't going to be as bad, but I'll let the treasurer answer for the revenue sharing.
Well, you'll see that we did adjust it actually downward to 513,000 from 522,000 was anticipated the prior year. 8 months ago, we were expecting it to just skydive down and be next to nothing. But with the stimulus packages, the unemployment, to everybody's surprise, it has continued on par with expectations. The state was coming out with some numbers and saying that everything was on par with how it had been. But you'd have to keep in mind, too, that our fiscal years do not line up. So the state actually publishes a document and puts out what their expectations are, but their year end is October. So kind of trying to do 6 months at one amount and 6 months at another amount, we came up with 513,000. So it is a decrease that can change on a dime. It is tied to sales tax. So if consumer confidence decreases and spending decreases, that number is reliant on that. Obviously, it doesn't look at the moment like we're going into a recession, but if the economy changes, that is where the money comes from. You'll notice that is more than the sales tax. I'm sorry, the property taxes that we bring in. So we're very heavily reliant on that state revenue sharing.
Okay, thank you, Treasurer Lori. I noticed that it is less, and in fact, my calculation is about 1.7% less proposed than the current budget. Since I have the floor, Mr. Chairman, my next question goes to cemetery. On page 2, I note that the revenue side of the cemetery is approximately a sum total of $9,200, say 10 grand, but yet the expense side is almost 63,000. Why is that?
Well, I'll let Pauline answer that, but that's not the true. You have to understand that we have to maintain the cemetery. Okay, that's a municipal cemetery. So no matter what, in perpetuity, we are going to have to take care of it. That is a township cemetery since 1843. Okay.
Yes, I fully understand that, and not to belabor the point, but when we get to the page on the expense side, I will call it, I think there's $24,000 in improvement. So that's why I asked in part why the difference. That's quite a spread. That's $52,000 difference between revenue and the expense.
So that's one reason why we go page by page, so that we can actually go through them one at a time. So yes, This money that we're showing coming in is actually for opening and closing. We don't know how many people are going to participate in that, hopefully none, but you just don't know. So that's the only revenue that the township actually takes in, so we're always in the hole in the cemetery. Last year or 2 years ago, it was brought up by that existing board to actually go forward, and possibly we need to resurvey 3 sections of the cemetery, and while they're out there resurveying the cemetery, possibly designate certain areas for cremations only to extend the life of our cemetery. So I couldn't do that last year with 4 elections, so I put in extra money this year so that if the board wanted me to go forward with that and get some estimates, the money's there to go ahead and at least do the surveys for 1, the sections that are needed, and then 2, possibly to also create additional sites.
I can't hear you,
I can't
Chuck.
hear you, Chuck.
I was just trying to turn the mic back on, but thank you. And do you know the approximate number of lots available for sale?
Sorry, I can get you that number, but I mean, there's a couple sections that are still open. We're looking to increase it quite a bit, because if we are able to do what we're planning to do, we might be able to get 4 per lot.
And the other thing is that's why we're preparing for these cremation walls, because
No, they're not the walls. The board said no, because that was going to be a really high overhead. We're actually going to put them in the ground so that we can actually expand the cemetery, but we won't have any high overhead or responsibility to maintaining these walls. But then there are individual niches that if somebody really doesn't want to go in the ground, the family can purchase a 4-person niche and actually stick it as similar to a foundation that would be in its place. So we'll be able to cover niches by they can purchase their own, and then we'll be able to expand the cemetery if it's possible with Linda's thought process there, to expand and enlarge the cemetery, not so much enlarge the cemetery's property, but enlarge the capacity.
Thank you.
There is a time we'll run out otherwise, so I mean, and if you notice, cremation happens to be a very popular thing right now, so we're making accommodations for it.
Well, it's much less expensive, yes.
Okay.
Thank you for the comment.
Any other discussion on page 2? Okay, then we'll go on to page 3. Does anybody have any comments on page 3?
Yes.
Go right ahead, Chuck.
If I look at under general administration, clerical wages, as far as format's concerned, I would like to see that broken out. How many people are we talking here?
Or clerical?
Yes.
I believe we have 1, 2 people as far as cleric. Who else, Pauline? There's it's in the clerical.
In this category,
Okay.
There's 2 part-timers. Everybody else is assigned to a separate department. This is the only one that is in general administration. And even when we change the chart of accounts, they will probably remain in general administration.
Okay. And when I look at the current budget compared to the proposed budget, there is no change in dollar amount. So I heard the word part-time. Is that expense managed by our schedule?
Well, it's only, we don't, during election time, Pauline, of course, had a lot of hours in the clerical. But
Yeah.
in the next year or 2, I think what we're trying to do is update the paperwork, I think, into and get it computerized and stuff. So that's what they spend a lot of their time on then. It all depends on how much work there is. But as you notice, we don't spend that budget either.
Yes. Well, I do know by resolution there's
Hold on
Can
one second.
I respond?
Yes,
So,
Pauline.
for example, the part-timers work 40 hours a week. So some of them some take time off. Other times, if something's going on in the township and if we need to have additional help, that's where additional help would go to. So what we try to do is so that every time we don't need to come back to the board. So as you can see, we're way under budget, but you do have to plan for in case something should happen. So next week, I just received a memo that there's going to be another audit of the election. Granted, I'm not going to hire anybody, but if it was a huge thing, you need that in there to be safe, but the board can see that we're always remain within the budget.
all right. Thank you. Dropping down, since I had the floor, to unemployment. What is that? It's $15,000. Would you define that line item?
Yes, Chuck. Our auditor, we have to have a line for unemployment in case somebody goes on unemployment, of course. But we are a reimbursing agency, so we don't pay insurance per quarter. If somebody actually goes on unemployment, we have to pay that exact amount to the state. So we do have to budget a little bit higher and to be safe instead of paying the insurance rate.
Thank you. Community projects, $60,000. Is there a schedule of community projects to justify the proposed budget?
Yeah. I do apologize for that one. Typically, I send that with your board pack, and I totally forgot. I will get you that one, but just to give you a rundown, it's usually where the senior coordinator is allocated, the spring cleanups allocated. We also participate for the seniors to go to OPC, so that percentage is in there as well. If we decide to plant flowers or do something nice around the township, it would be under community projects, but I definitely will get you that list so that you'll know all of it.
Thank you. The last item on page 3 that I have a question mark is insurance. What's the definition of that line item? It's 50,000 proposed.
Well,
The
that's our
insurance category there.
Go right ahead.
Pardon me?
I'm going to turn it over to Bruce, but there's 2 types of insurance. He will explain how we have to budget, but it's also for, it's not unemployment. I can't think of the word at the moment. It's
Workers'
for the
comp.
audit and for workers' compensation, yes. And then the other one is what Bruce handles.
And that, you know, we do have ours with MMRMA, which is our insurance company. And I just got the figures on that. We're going to be getting a huge refund on that. Not a refund, but profit sharing with them because we haven't had the claims. And so we've done extremely well. And I think we're getting somewhere in the neighborhood of, I think it's $43,000 back. And matter of fact, I have a meeting next week with Tim from MMRA, and he's going to give us the exact figures, okay? But we have to pay that up front, and then we later on they have an allocation, and we get some of that money back. And 1 year, it cost us, I think, $3,000 to insure the whole township. Okay, because we've been a long-standing member with MMRMA, and the longer you're with them, and the less claims you have, and the more money that they are able to save, and everybody, it's a nonprofit, and everybody shares in the benefits, and so we've been extremely fortunate that we've been with them a long time, and we get great benefits from them. So that's your insurance. Then you have workers and comp. Oh, okay. Anything else on page 3? Okay, we'll go to page 4. Anybody have any questions on page 4?
I have a question.
Yes.
Under the legal department, do we have a list of any, like, what lawsuits are pending? I mean, do we have any current lawsuits pending?
No.
Okay. How is the board made aware of lawsuits when, like, if something were filed?
Well, we'll immediately tell you. I mean, I immediately put them out, and we, if we have a lawsuit, it goes to Bob Davis right off the get-go, and then Bob Davis, after he reviews it, he'll then send out a attorney-client privilege information to everybody.
And then does Bob keep us updated on the status of the lawsuits, or how, like, in a typical lawsuit in the past? Because I'm new to the board, like, how would we as a board monitor that?
Yeah, and Pauline can say what if she wants to say it, but what happens is some of our lawsuits are turned over to MA, okay, and then they provide us, if it's an insurance matter, they provide us with an attorney, and then they coordinate with our attorney, and that's how the last several lawsuits have been handled. And we give updates as to the lawsuits, but we do keep them their client privilege information, so we don't tell everybody, but we do get it out to the board members.
Okay.
Karen, if I may add, typically if it's a longer case, you will receive quite a few updates. If it's a case that's just going to be one day, you'll receive the actually notice. You'll receive the notice of the date that they're going to go, and then he usually will recap or send what the judge decides. The longer cases, of course, you're going to get a lot more updates on. So it just depends upon the type of case, how much notice you're going to get. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Thank you. Since I have the floor, can I just ask, since we're sort of getting into the departments, are there ever any like department reports that are given to the board over time? Like any updates on what's going on in departments, or it's just if there's an issue, or?
Well, any board member can ask anything at any board meeting. If somebody wants to come in and talk to the clerk's office or the supervisors or the treasurers, feel free to call us or whatever. If there's any issues, we're pretty open. I don't think we've ever been not open.
But so what I guess my question was, are there any like proactive, like monthly reports from the departments, or that's not something that has ever been done?
No, I don't think so. Not since I can't remember it ever being done before me. And I used to have department meetings, and it got to be where every department head, if they had a problem, they just said, well, we'll call you. And I mean, we don't have a DPW. We've got very few departments. Each one of us handles our own area of expertise. And other than that, we don't, the fire department's the only one that directs a lot of information to me. Ed has a question.
I've got a comment, Bruce. As always, we always have our departmental report at the end of our board meetings, and that's when you and Pauline and Lori, if she wants to, can present everything that's happening or any special issues in their department. So, or trustees can also have any comments for but at the end of the board package is always a departmental update. So that's been good for me. That's it.
Okay. Thank you.
Pauline?
I would just like to add, just for some background, I think if Lori and I gave you a report, you would be bored to tears. Lori could be saying, I balanced a checkbook all day long, and I would be saying, I created papers. I think our goal is to keep you guys apprised of what's going on. Yes, as Ed saying, through those reports at the end of the meeting, but as far as the department report, we kind of already do that. If there's an issue like the cemetery, I need to have areas surveyed. I brought it to the attention, and how do we want to go about it? So when there's an issue, whether it be good or bad, we definitely bring it to your attention. But as far as the department report, I think I would bore you to tears.
Okay, let's, anybody else have any questions on page 4? Chuck, go right ahead.
Yes, just a follow-up question to the question asked by Trustee Geipel. The response was no. So is that no, there are no legal cases pending, or no, there is no list available?
There's nothing pending at this time. Pauline has one thing.
There was a case filed, which I'm not going to get into, but I believe all of the board received that maybe 1 or 2 weeks ago. So that gets back to, we make you guys aware by as soon as I receive it, I send it out to you. So we do have one that's been filed. And then I believe the supervisor's office is busy with ordinances type or the officer type, but that would be under prosecutions. But we do have one that was recently filed about 2 weeks ago. And if somebody doesn't recall, please shoot me an email and I'll resend it to you.
Yeah, I don't.
Thank you.
I don't know of it. You'll have to tell me about that. Okay. And is it a minor one, or is it a? Is this a district court case?
You just never know, but I will be happy to send you that case.
Okay. Any other questions on that? Go ahead, Chuck. You got another one?
Yes, I do. And again, I'm not attempting to take time at the board meeting to be educated, but there are some general questions. And if I'm going to use the supervisor's department because it's the first one appearing, but if I look at wages and just a calculation, the proposed wage in the new budget is a 2.5% approximate increase for the supervisor, but a 3.5% approximate increase for the deputy supervisor. And then when I look at some of the other departments, the assessor has quite an increase percentage-wise. And when I look at the deputy clerk, there is no increase, period. Why the difference?
So I'll be happy to take that. So for an example, and we're going to go ahead and stick with the deputy supervisor's wages. And when we budget, we also have to budget in case there is either overtime. We also have a policy that if you don't use your vacation, it's paid out. So you have to budget some money in for that in order to pass our audit. So there's other items baked into that number, but it doesn't mean they're going to receive all of that. So we have to budget accordingly for that purpose, but the raise per hour will be 2.5%. The reason why Bob doesn't really have that is he takes all of his vacation time. So I didn't really have to put a lot of cushion into his because I know that he uses all of his up, which I do encourage because everybody needs that break. So that's why you have the difference with the deputies as well.
Okay, I would just like to say that you say it will be a 2.5%. I guess that's yet to be determined. Another question.
That's correct. Go ahead.
Another question goes to what I do. Longevity. How long has longevity pay been in effect at the township?
I'd have to say it was way before me. It's probably been in effect, what, 25 years?
Wow. Okay, I asked that question only because my familiarity with longevity pay, it's primarily a union mentality. And I was just curious how long it's been in place. And I also make the observation that the longevity pay has increased 2.5% as well. Now, we all know that longevity pay is salary. So according to the proposed budget, that has a 2.5% application. And I think that the longevity pay is calculated on a percentage of base pay from my research in resolutions, etc. So I'm just curious. And when I look at, again, the longevity pay in an amount of, in the supervisor's department, of $12,929, my assumption is that includes the deputy supervisor, correct?
Yes.
Again, I go back to, I would like to see that broken out in the budget format. The next question I have, and that's, I think, the last one on this page, is when I look in pay in lieu of insurance, is that payment 100% of the actual subscription rate?
That is payment to not take the township insurance.
I understand that, but is that payment equal to 100% of the monthly prescription rate?
Well, if you want to put, if you're using me as an example, if you want to put me and my son who's disabled and you want me to go on there, I'd be more than happy to go on there, but it would cost the township an awful lot of money. I can explain that. I know that because I have a separate insurance, they're paying the hundreds of thousands of dollars and not the township for his care.
I'm not questioning that. I'm just trying to clarify. Is the pay in lieu of insurance, if the monthly subscription rate, or let's say the annual subscription rate is $7,625, is that 100% of the subscription rate?
If I were to put my deputy supervisor on, well, I can give you an example. Some of the full-time fire department people are costing us probably more like $12,000 to $14,000 if you put their families on there. Okay, now by keeping some of the people off of that because their other spouse has insurance, then the township, yes, is saving a lot of money. Yes.
Okay.
Can I interrupt 1 second? I think what I might be able to help Chuck out here. I think what you're trying to ask is it equal to a singular person being insured? It is close to that rate, if that's what you're looking at. If you didn't have a family, and that's how most of the townships do judge it on, is they take the single person rate and they give that person that amount of money for in lieu of. So it is similar to that wage.
Thank you. Okay. So it's 100% of the subscription rate for a single or a family, whatever it might be, probably single.
That's not true either, because if you have an older employee, then their rate is much higher. Okay, the insurance company goes by all different. If you're a senior and you're getting insurance, it's higher. Okay, if you're a younger person, it can be less. Pauline? Okay. Yes, Pauline?
I just wanted to say, Chuck, that this happened quite a while ago when Dan was around. He realized that the in lieu of hadn't been increased in a long time, so he did a study. He tried to do a blend of the insurance, and he came up with a number. We have been at that number for a very long time, and I think it was increased last year by $50. It's a board decision, and that decision comes in July when, well, actually it'll be in June, when the insurance is up and running, and the families do cost a lot more than the number Bruce threw out. So it just depends how many is on the family and the situation of the ages. There's a lot of characteristics in it.
Okay, that answers the question.
But that might be in May or June, because I think we start in June. So you'll be going over the insurance, and in lieu of, it comes with a resolution, and that's either May or June when that's due.
Okay. The last question on this line item I have is the pay in lieu of insurance. If if I participate as an employee of the township, full-time insurance, my understanding is I have a percentage contribution.
Correct.
What is that percentage contribution?
Is that up to 17% now?
12.5%.
12.5.
What is it, please?
12.5.
What is it? 12.5%. So if I'm an employee and eligible for insurance township and I do not take insurance, is my pay in lieu of adjustment or in lieu of insurance adjusted downward for that 12% contribution I would have to make?
Say that again, Chuck. I didn't follow that all the way.
If I have insurance township, I am charged a 12.5% premium, correct?
Correct. Yes.
So if the payment in lieu of insurance is 100% of the subscription rate, why is it not adjusted down to 88% of the premium rate, adjusted for the 12.5% I would contribute?
I think
that's just
no. Yes, fee in lieu of is not 100% of a certain rate. As I said ages ago, they tried to blend it. And I think without having some of those numbers in front of us, it's going to be kind of hard to do that.
I defer.
So I'd be happy to send you some of those invoices, and you can be ready for May or June.
We will talk about it in May, June, or July. Thank you.
I can send you info now, because it will change, but at least then you can see the differences.
Okay.
Well, yes.
We're trying to keep people off of the insurance. It's to the township's benefit. So however you want to discuss it at a later time, we'll do that. Any other questions on page 4? Okay, let's go on to page 5. Any questions on page 5? The clerk and the treasurer get the same as mine. So it's whatever, their wages are the same as mine.
Who is that?
I'm just saying the treasurer, the clerk, our base salary is all the same. So they're the same on all 3 of the.
Yes, except the clerk gets additional fees based on additional administrative assignments, I believe. Back to the assessor. That's almost an 8.5% increase proposed versus the current budget. Why is that?
He gets a 2.5%. Pauline?
The calculation is actually 8.
No, the supervisor has up to X amount of hours per week for the assessor. I hope that he keeps them at the lower end, but if the state tribunal says, hey, we need this and we need this now, the gentleman's going to accumulate more than those 20 hours. I think it's 20 hours a week. So there is extra put in there. It doesn't mean he's going to get all that or that he has a higher increase. It's just that there is funding in the budget, but he will only get 2.5. And when you look at the resolution, you can actually see what his hourly wage is going to be.
Okay.
And that's what's going to tie it, is his wages.
And just for your information, the state keeps coming down onto the county and adding more and more things to the assessor's duties. And then the county then informs the assessor that there's more and more that has to be done. We've had audits. It's in the last four years, things have dramatically changed. There's much more required from the state now and the assessors, and just trying to keep up with all of that, it does add time. And then we have the tribunals, which he has to go to. Those are the people who fight the taxes. There's just a lot more that's involved, and you have to understand that everybody in the county is going through this same thing, and the counties are going through this same thing. The state started up in the Upper Peninsula and went down section by section to every county and did audits. And when they did the audits, it took a lot of time and effort to produce all of the things that needed to be produced for the audit. So I'm just explaining that in assessing, this is becoming more and more complicated because of the state regulations. As you know, the state wants to take away all of the assessing and put it under the state. Okay, and we have been fighting that along with the counties, and I don't know what's going to happen. It may all end up at the state someday.
Okay. I was just, in this question, I may have asked it previously, but the 2.5% that's been discussed, that is also applied to the longevity.
Correct.
Chuck, I'll go ahead and answer that. So the longevity payment, it was amended about 2 years ago so that it's very clear and straightforward. It's not any pay on, let's say, your payout vacation or overtime. It is strictly on your hours worked. So yes, if you are going to give a 2.5% raise, it would also show an increase in the longevity, but it would only be applied for the hours worked. And there's a maximum hour per category.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions on page 5? Okay, we'll move on to page 6. Anybody have any questions on page 6?
Yes. I was waiting for someone else to raise their hand. The reason I have these questions, just for general information, I have a background and experience in finance and accounting, inclusive of forensic accounting, and that's what prompts some of these questions. And of course, my accounting experience in the corporate world is in accordance with GAAP, the generally accepted accounting principles. Municipal accounting is a little bit different, subject to the Michigan State Department of Treasury and GASB. So some of these questions, I'm building a base of information from which I could draw in the future. So the question I had on page 6 goes to health insurance treasurer. I noticed that there's a 12% increase. Is that for the deputy treasurer?
12%.
Well, if you do the math, 10,578 proposed versus 9,400 for the current budget, it calculates to approximately 12%.
Correct, and all of them should have about that much of an increase. So our renewal it starts July 1st, but we have to start prepping much earlier. But so I call up our person and I ask him if he could get his crystal ball out and predict how far in advance or how high these increases could go for health insurance. So he said to be on the safe side, of course he can't guarantee, he said to budget 10 to 12%. And hopes we don't have that, which would be great. And if we don't spend the money. But yes, you're absolutely right. There is a 12% increase in all of them.
Okay, so just a follow-up question to your comment. If we have funds allocated, and in this particular case, say 12% increase, and we do not spend that money, what happens to the funds that are allocated and left unspent? Do they go to the general fund?
Lori, do you want to handle that one?
Sure. So at the end of the year, obviously, anything that's not spent as far as the appropriation just rolls into the general fund savings. And that becomes what we call the fund balance. So I don't believe any year, certainly since I've been on the board, that we have spent all of our appropriated funds.
Okay. What is the current reserve approximately?
I'd have to probably run some reports and look, but somewhere probably around 1.1, 1.2 million.
We have an annual audit.
Mm-hmm.
And does the auditor make a recommendation as the percentage of the current year operating budget to be in reserve? And if so, what is that percentage?
Typically, under GASB, they generally are recommending 20 to 40%. In a township our size, I would feel very nervous if we only had a 20% reserve. We don't have a lot of areas to cut back. So if we had a downturn in the economy, it's not like we can cut out a department or lay some people off or downsize. We really operate at a bare minimum for the most part for staffing because we don't have a lot of different services. There's really no place to ever cut back. So, in my opinion, 20 to 40% would be ridiculously low. I'd be much more comfortable at a higher level.
What's that higher level that would satisfy your comfort?
I don't think that there's a magic number. I guess I'd like to see, some discussions about what are our future plans should we start looking at some of these funds and reserving some funds for projects in the future and kind of slate out that, this is where this money is going to go or what are our plans with it?
Okay.
I would just say one thing, Chuck. There's a recession coming. We just don't know when it's coming either. And this township has always been very conservative, and we don't lay people off. We don't diminish the services. The last recession that we went through in 2008, 9, and 10, we prepared. We had the money. We never raised the taxes. We never put on any more millages. If you look at the surrounding areas, they all put on emergency millages, and they had 3.5% for fire, 3% extra emergency millages for police. We never did in Addison Township. We never ran out of money. Virtually, we came out better after the recession than we went into it. So when you ask, why do we have these reserves? My mother at 100 years old always said you put the money away when times are good so that you have it when times are bad. And in Addison Township, we've never panicked. We've never had to lay anybody off. And we've never had to raise the taxes when everybody was out of work. So that's why we have it.
Well, that's commendable, but I go back to the 20-40% recommendation by auditor. One would always want to go to the high end of recommended percentage and expand it to the extent possible, as long as there is no penalty for having that amount of money in fund. So that's the question I had. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else have any questions on page 6? Okay, we'll move on to page 7. Does anybody have any questions on page 7?
Are you hiding your face, Bruce?
No, I would just state before anybody gets started on the ordinance officer, we don't have to raise his, because I noticed when we activated him, we had up to the 20 hours already put into that. So we're good on the ordinance officer, so we can increase his hours another 4 hours and still would be within what we had first put in place. So
and that position you mentioned, a building inspector, that is a part-time position?
The which one now? The ordinance officer?
Well,
the ordinance officer.
I thought you were talking to building inspector.
No, ordinance officer.
The ordinance officer, I understand. Yes. I do have a question about the building inspector. And rather than get an explanation now, where do I find the resolution or contract for wages for the building inspector?
That's in the minutes. I have to pull the minutes out for you.
Well, perhaps I can research that.
Pauline, go right ahead, Pauline.
I didn't understand. Chuck, I didn't understand what you were asking. Did you want the?
I can simplify it. How is the building inspector paid? And rather than take time to explain that now, if a copy of the contract is available, I'd just like to understand what that formula is.
We can get that.
Understood. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions on page 7? Okay, we'll go to page 8. Anybody have any questions on page 8? No questions on page 8, and we'll go on to page 9. Chuck, you have a
Yes.
question? Page 9.
Yes, we have a contingency of $75,000.
Lawsuits. That'd be for lawsuits.
Well, so that's contingency and not under legal lawsuits. So if we have, what, 80,000, that's on top of the 80,000 in the legal department?
Maybe Pauline can answer that one, but yes, we have a contingency fund in case there's any other expenses. It's contingency.
Okay, well, you specified it as being legal. I was just curious. I'm looking for fluff. That's all I have.
Okay, anybody else have any questions on page 9? Okay, we'll go on to page 10. Anybody have any questions on page 10?
Yes.
Go ahead.
I notice under appropriations, police, etc., we have a Marine Patrol contract. That would be for the Lake District, Lakeville Lake specifically.
The Marine Patrol, the only people that can contract with the Sheriff's Department is the municipality. The Lake Owners Association.
Yes, I understand that.
Yeah, they requested that we provide Marine Patrol. They then give us the money, we put it in the account, and then we contract with the Sheriff's Department because we're the only ones that can do it. They do not contract with private entities.
I understood you to say that the association has requested.
Yes, I got a email from Wayne Hodges, the president of the Lake Association, and he requested that he thought he had this much money in there, and that he gave me dates and times that they wanted Marine Patrol 4 hours each weekend day, and the holidays another 4 hours, and that he estimated once we get the actual contract from the Sheriff's Department, he estimated that that's what they would have to spend.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anybody else on page 10? Okay, we'll go on to page 11. Any questions on page 11? Okay, and we'll go on to page 12. Anybody have any questions on page 12?
Bruce, I have a general question.
Yes.
So if we have a lot of money in the bank right now, as Treasurer Fisher indicated, and we don't spend, traditionally we don't spend our budget, and so that pot keeps building and building. My question is, has there been discussion about projects or like what to do with this money that's sitting in the bank? I mean, if we don't talk about it now or plan something, we're going to be at 2 million in a couple years. I mean.
Well, the issue is there are a lot of things that we don't have an answer on. Like, first of all, like the chloriding of the roads. We don't know if the same company is going to continue providing that service. And if we do have to go to the county, it's going to cost us a lot more also. So some of those things we are keeping in the back of our mind that we might have to spend to chloride the roads is going to be more expensive. There are different things that we don't know, and we don't know if we're ever going to keep getting the money from the cable company. And as you know, they keep increasing our dues to the Pollyant Trail. And NODA, we do have a millage. But some of these things are unknown, and we don't know if we're going to, I mean, I know the fire chief is, you know, someday we may have to build another fire hall. We have 2 right now. We may have to build another one. Some of these things the township has to provide. We don't know where the sheriff's contract's going either, okay? Sometimes if for some unknown reason these things skyrocket, or even health, I mean, we're talking about health insurance too. We don't know from year to year what the health insurance is going to be. As you know, the health insurance has skyrocketed, but we owe it to our employees, especially the first responders, to keep the best health care that we can possibly keep for them that's reasonable. And I say if they are, you know, putting their lives on the line, we owe it to them. But I can only give so much of how much money we have. So everybody asks, how much is enough money? I don't know how much enough money is. I really don't.
I agree with your comment about we owe it to our first responders. Absolutely. My understanding is there's money in the police fund as well. But really my question is, I mean, has there been discussion about any kind of projects for the township, like in the last couple of years?
Well, I'll take an example for the police fund. As you knew, I don't know if you did know, but and I hate to bring this up in the public, but at the time, we only had one officer on duty every shift. And the next backup is 20 minutes away. We've been slowly increasing, and we finally got 2 officers on days and 2 on afternoons. And finally, we got 2 on midnights. We've been adding so that we want every one of these people to go home to their families at the end of the night too. We want them to have backups. And so, but the trouble is when you have 2 officers on every shift, when one man takes his 2 days off, the other man's there by himself. And then when that guy comes back, the other guy takes his days off and he's there by himself. So we added a swing shift now from 7 o'clock at night till 3 in the morning to cover the busy times, so that we're trying to keep 2 men on, because years ago I covered Addison and Oakland Township all by myself. That was 72 square miles. My backup was from Rochester. That was a long ways away. Times have changed now. And so when you ask about the police budget, we're way under. We're the smallest contingency of deputies in the whole county. The ideal situation would be to have 3 deputies on every shift. So when one man takes his time off, there's still 2 there. All the other townships have it. They have more than that. We still do not have that yet. And so in the future, we need to bring our contingency to 3 deputies per shift. That way there's always 2, which is a safety factor. I don't like to broadcast that to the public, that we only have 1 deputy on 4 nights a week, and 3 nights a week we have 2 deputies. So that was an example of the police budget. The fire department, as you know, we're in a spot right now, the same thing. The state, the county came down and they told us that we're not in compliance anymore with the amount of people on the fire engines. And a lot of this has all changed because of COVID. So we know now that we have to add more, ALS, life support personnel on the fire department. And things are changing and the codes are changing. And we may have to spend more money out of the general fund to support the fire department. That's another, and that's not by our choice. It's because it's mandated now. And we have a 1-year exemption right now. So anyways, Pauline has a question there, or an answer. Go right ahead.
No, I just wanted to, and this is just my viewpoint, but one project that we're going to be working on, which is going to be this budget year and probably the next, of course, is the cemetery. It is going to be costly if we start putting the in-ground niches. It's just going to be costly. So what I did this year was just for the survey. Me personally, I like to see green and I like to see people outside. So I'm hoping to actually listen to the next grant seminar that Michigan puts on, because I would love to see an area here at the township. I'm acting like I'm at the township, where we actually have a track so we could actually go out and walk while maybe the kids are playing. A lot of times the board, and it's up to the board's decision, when there is extra money, we do things for the park. We do things for the public so they can get outside and enjoy the beauty that we have. So those are the things that I noticed that we try to take care of and put the extra money into.
I just think generally, my last comment, generally, if we have a lot of funds and we anticipate funds, building over the years, I think the board should look at starting to spend some of that money. I mean, I'm not saying spend the whole thing, but I mean, I know that there's a library board out there that's been looking to get contributions. I mean, I'm not saying that's it, but I think that's a benefit to our community too. So I just would like to see some dialogue, hopefully, and I'm sure we will over the next several years, about some projects in the community. And so just generally, I just wanted to make that statement.
Well, Karen, I have several times been looking for a large piece of property on the paved road for soccer fields, pavilions, everything. We have tried to bid on some parcels of property, and of course, once they hear that we're the ones bidding on it, then the price skyrockets. But we have been looking for a nice flat piece of property either on Lakeville Road or Rochester Road for a community park for activities, for baseball fields, soccer fields, things like that. So if one comes up, we hope that we have the money, and we've tried. And as of right now, there just aren't any parcels that fit our size, because I don't want to buy just a 10-acre parcel, because then if we try to add on to it, then everybody else will raise their prices because they think we have deep pockets. So I'm looking for a 40-acre piece of property, something like what Oxford Township has, where we can actually, over the years, get grants to put in different things, skating rink or anything. But yeah, that's what we're looking at. And we have been trying for 12 years. I've been trying to buy a piece of property and have been unsuccessful. Okay, anybody else have any questions? Okay, I think, what are we on to now? I think that's the end of the session as far as the budget. Go ahead, Pauline.
We need to go over the fire departments.
The fire department?
Could we review the fire departments, please?
Okay, maybe Jerry, you on there, Jerry?
Yes, I sure am.
Okay, can you tell us a little bit about your budget?
Well, I think it's page 13 that you guys have in there. I think it's the capital budget. There's some yellow highlighted numbers there on that page. Nobody has that? I saw it online. I don't know if anybody got...
Okay.
Oh, maybe we'll move to next month. I'm operating great. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, that's what we hear. I have the capital budget 21-22
Yes.
highlighted numbers.
And if the capital budget's pretty easy. It's pretty self-explanatory. I also give a really good 10-year outlay on capital items. You do not have that with you right now, as this is just the discussion phase, but I do have most of it together, and I have a budget all the way out to 2030, 31, and the bigger purchases and vehicles are all scheduled out there. So anything else there? The capital budget, we have a radio issue this year that I have to come up with about 90 grand because the county is now finally getting off Open Sky and having the state radio system, so now we can talk to other counties besides just Oakland County. But unfortunately, they don't have enough money in there. 911 surcharge funds are decreasing, and the county, in all their wisdom, did not budget enough money for this gazillion-dollar radio system that's is very irritating to a lot of fire chiefs and police officers as well. But anyway, we're going to go to the state system. That's 90 grand we're going to have to pay probably next year to supplement. We're not getting the radios that we have now. It's not radio for radio. We have 31 preps. We're only getting 16, so I have to buy some more, unfortunately. Tech rescue, there's some outdated rope and some sundry of items that we have to replace, so I have 5,000 there. Some ladder, we got that used ladder truck. We want to make it a quint. A quint is an engine and a ladder combined. Those equipment has to be purchased in order for us to qualify for that quint certification from ISO, right? So we can keep our ISO rating. So I allocated 10,000 for that, and then we also have a skid unit that it's for fighting brush fires. It's on the pickup truck. We actually received $4,999 from the DNR grant. And I'll be bringing that to the board in April to purchase that. It's a 50-50 match, but as you can see, it costs $14,000. So, and then some small station improvements at each station, 1 and 2, $4,000, a total of $127,000. The rest of the money will be allocated over a long-term reserves and allocated per each piece of apparatus in the 10-year budget. That's the capital budget. Any questions?
No, and as I have gone to the supervisors meeting, we've argued about this radio system, about the radios, and so I don't know what the end result is, but we have put all the supervisors are in the same boat because we all have to buy these for our fire departments, and so we're hoping the county's going to help us out on this. It's not finished yet, so we'll wait and see what happens. But hopefully we can get some money out of Coulter to see if he can help us with these radios. So we're still working on that. So that may not cost us the total $90,000. Any questions?
Hopefully not.
On that? Okay. How about the operating budget?
The operating budget that you have before you is a line item. And it's put out for the last 4 years. You can see 2018-19 all the way to 21-22, which is proposed. There is a couple line item changes because of the drastic changes because of the hiring of 2 people. The board allowed us to hire 2 people, and so those line items, there's 7 that go with that, with Social Security, in lieu of insurance, all those line items are affected, so those are all adjusted. Any questions with that?
Yes. Chief, the approval to hire 2 new people, what's the status of that hiring approval?
Thank you for asking. We did have one we already hired right now from internal. That worked out great, and we're advertising for the second one now. Taking applications to the first part of February. I'll give you guys an update when that comes.
What the one that is hired, is that local?
Yes, local, on the fire department already. Correct.
Okay. And Was that the first application in or so forth?
Well, we posted it for 7 days internally. We had three eligible employees that are part-time right now or paid on call with the fire department. So we posted that internally for 7 days. We had one applicant that wanted that position, was qualified. So we moved him over and promoted him to full-time status.
Okay. And who is that applicant?
That is Mitchell.
Who, please?
Mitchell Morawski, my son.
Oh, your son?
Yes.
He just graduated from the academy there. We can't get anybody to apply, okay?
Well, congratulations. Is there a nepotism policy?
His immediate supervisor is our assistant chief for shift duty. He's on his shift, so we've taken care of that issue there.
Okay. Is there a nepotism policy in the township and or the fire department?
Yes, we do have one, but he's under a different supervisor. So he's not under the control of the chief. Yes, we do have one, but there are exceptions to it. Yeah,
well, the reason I asked that question is my experience with family members in a business. It changes the work culture. And that work culture, I'm sure, will be managed. But congratulations.
Well, and also, Chuck, I wanted to bring it. He works 24 hours a day, right? And some of those shifts, I don't see him all the time. And if it is, it's my 7 to 4 that I work Monday through Friday. So it's really not that big of a deal. And he is on the shift with the assistant chief that works 24 hours a day with him as well. So we will manage it. Right. Probably not favorable for him because of me, but other than that, he's fine.
I would guess not. Okay.
And we're very happy to get them because, as you know, there were 27, 28 who went to the fire school at OCC, and out of that, I think 13 graduated, and out of the 13, only 7 passed the state test, and he's one of them. So, yep. And all the rest of them been hired. So we were very, very fortunate. So.
Yeah. Good. Congratulations. Thanks, Chief.
Any other questions on the operating budget?
Oh,
I did have, Pauline did say or asked a question about or to make sure that I get with the board members on the revenue for capital. And I don't have, or operating, I don't have that percentage right in front of me. But what I did was, after talking with Lori this year and trying to figure out how much money we had and trying to solve our 2-person dilemma in hiring them, I had found out actually the last 11 years I was using the wrong number. All right, I was using the money off of the L4029 that is allocated this year, but that tax money doesn't actually come into the next following year. So our revenue money is actually going to be the same as it was last year. It's because I'm using the right number, and Lori actually informed me of that. Okay. So we're using the right numbers now.
Anybody have any other questions on that? Okay, I think we'll end the session on that then, and there's no action needed to be done at this point.
There's a question.
Yes, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Trustee Garrick.
Gary, thank you for your presentation. I don't have a question for you, but I do have a question regarding our township budget. You mentioned the funding for the Marine Patrol would be coming in. I don't see it on revenue. Is there a place where that is for revenue?
Well, that money comes in from the Lake Association, which is, I think, in trust and agency with the Treasurer Fisher. So maybe she could explain that.
That money, the revenue side of that, if you look at services rendered Marine Patrol, is where you'll see the revenue. So, and in some years, the township contributes towards the Marine Patrol.
But I don't see it on the first 2 pages of revenue. Or am I missing it?
Right, it's on, and the page numbers are cut off, but it would be on one of the last pages of the budget under the 205 accounts.
I saw it there, but I didn't see where it wasn't.
There's a $6,000 services rendered for revenues, and then a $6,000 Marine Patrol contract. So that does not run through the 101, the general fund. It runs through 205.
Thank you. That explains why I couldn't find it, Lori. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. Well, then we'll be done with the work session. We'll go to item number 3 then. See, item number 3, resolution adopting the fiscal year 2021-22 wage compensation schedule, including fire department clerk, supervisor, treasurer, and trustee. I propose a 2.5 increase. It's a modest increase for employees. I believe Social Security right now is at 1.3, but they're estimating 2.5 in 2021. And based on the 2020 project, we're just about on course. It's important for us to, of course, keep our employees, and the other towns around us, as you know, are paying a lot more than us. And we really don't want to lose our employees, and a lot of it is because they like working where they're working, but we do want to compensate them.
Question.
Yes.
The resolution, you've mentioned a couple things. Is it premature to adopt a resolution before the percentage increase 2.5% is discussed and approved? I have a couple questions in that regard. If I look at item 3 of the resolution, whereas number 4 on page 1, the fourth whereas, shall receive a 2.5% increase. That's why I question it. Is it premature to move on this? What happens if it's determined that the increase will be 3.5%, or perhaps the increase will be 1.3%? In regard to what our chairperson just said, being a recipient of Social Security, I can tell you that the increase is 1.3%, which is equal to the cost of living adjustment, 1.3%. And there's all indication the minimum wage will not be increased, at least in this state, in the year 2021. And that's primarily due to a high unemployment rate. So the question I have is what justifies a 2.5% increase? I heard what you said, Mr. Chairman, but what justifies? Is it an arbitrary number?
Well, first of all, I had recommended a 2%. The other townships around us are giving some of those increases at that, but of course they make a heck of a lot more than what our people make. NODA, I'm on the board of NODA, and NODA gave out a 3% raise. I argued that down to a 2% raise, and I was outvoted. I was the only dissenting vote, and so they're at 3%. So everybody is getting a little bit more of a raise, and if you notice the national average, I think wages increased something like 5.8%. So if you want to keep employees, and you want to keep up with inflation. Everybody knows 1.3 was not the inflation rate, okay? You can go to the store and you know that, and I know that, okay? Social Security, you got 1.3. But I'll tell you right now that the real inflation rate is a lot higher than that. And to keep your employees, if you want to lose them, then all you have to do is stagnate their wages, and they'll go to another township because they're trying to steal them already.
What when you mention the surrounding townships, who are you referring to specifically? Which township?
Oakland Township, Oxford Township, go to Orion Township. Every one of them are higher paid than our people.
With respect, I can disagree with that. I have personally talked with the clerks or the finance director for Oxford Township, the Charter Township of Oakland, Bruce Township, Dryden, Metamora. Example, you mentioned Oxford. Oxford has, for this year, 0% salary increase.
That's not true.
That's what I was saying today.
I understand that, Chuck, but they gave them a bonus, okay?
I don't know about the bonus. I do know about
the bonus. They gave them a big bonus. We didn't give our people a bonus. We're giving them 2.5%. I will tell you, our people deserve it. And if you go look at all the other townships, even my wages, the treasurer's wages, the clerk's wages, we are the lowest paid in the whole county. And I understand, and we're slowly trying to bring our people up so that they will stay, and they do stay, and they're very loyal. But I can't go to them and say we're not going to give you a raise in these economic times.
I'm not suggesting that be said. I am just trying to understand the justification for a 2.5% increase when we have other townships, and one of which you mentioned, and I was informed today by Curtis Wright that there is no increase.
Because they're giving them a bonus. Each person is getting a large bonus. In Orion Township, 2% of somebody making $50,000 versus 2.5% of somebody making $30,000. There's a big difference.
Well, yes, and I'm not suggesting anything. I'm just trying to understand the justification. And when you say that some of the positions are underpaid, according to close by townships, those townships that I just mentioned do not have longevity pay, with exception. Bruce Township has an office union. That's contractual. The other research, as an example, looking at Oakland, the only people that get or receive a calculated longevity pay is the union, which is the fire department. So these 5 townships that I've contacted are 180 degrees away in some cases from what is being said. And when it comes to pay in lieu of insurance, which is also paid to Addison Township, we're looking at 40%.
Have you looked at any of their retirement packages?
Oh yeah. If I look at Oxford Township, there's a 15% contribution for full-time employees, plus a 10% retirement contribution for the trustees, I may add. So all I am suggesting is I like to speak from a fact-based platform, and I do research, and I have a high-level interest in it. So my question is it premature to act on a resolution specifically with the language shall be a 2.5% increase?
Well, that's my recommendation is 2.5. The other communities get merged. They get retirements after their. What do we give our employees here? And, but
I'm just talking about
I understand, and
a proposed 2.5%.
And I'm a proponent of our employees here. When I came here in 2008, okay, the employees were very poorly paid. I will tell you that. And when we didn't give them raises in 2009 and 2010, what's the first thing we did on raises? We gave it to the employees only, and we did not give it to the elected officials, because I said we thanked our employees for staying with us, that we were very appreciative, and the employees got the raise, and that's where you see the differential on the deputy supervisors versus the supervisor or the deputy treasurer. The deputy treasurer, the deputy clerk, and the deputy supervisor, they got the raises because they stayed with us through those times, okay, and we appreciated it. But we are way underpaid. You can tell me about wages and everything, but you have to look at their total packages. Their total packages we are way underpaid.
I understand what makes up the elements of a total compensation package. I'm just asking, is it premature to approve a resolution at 2.5% when that increase is not yet agreed upon?
Well, then let's have a motion on it and decide. I'd be happy with that, because that's my recommendation. I have never recommended outlandish raises. Some of the other townships have done their studies, okay, through these other companies, and they jump up 20–30% raises. We have never done that. And the elected officials here are not highly paid. Believe me, we're the lowest paid in the county. But we don't do it for the pay. We do it because this is what we want to do. But there comes a time when you have to worry about the employees. If you're not going to keep the employees, we've already lost firemen. The firemen go to the next town because they get a much better package. And when we're going to argue with our firemen about a 2.5%, we're going to lose them if we don't give them raises. Karen has a question.
Yes, thank you. I just was curious, do we traditionally give a 2.5% raise or something like that every year, or No. Sometimes we didn't give any. There was 2 years we didn't give any, and then I believe we gave a 2%. And then when everything took off, and I'll just tell you, other communities come in right into our township and try to steal our employees. And they give them a huge raise, a huge package, and they say, hey, come to our township. And they don't. But to keep our employees, you have to stay somewhat competitive, and we're really not competitive, but you have to stay somewhere up there. And so otherwise, we already lost the firemen over to Oxford. I had Rochester Hills come in, try to steal our people from the building department. I'm just saying that 2.5% is more than reasonable if we're giving the NOTA drivers 3% and everybody in NOTA 3%.
Well, if I may, Mr. Chairman, I don't see any relevance to what NOTA is doing relevant to what Addison Township should do.
It's your taxpayer money. It's your taxpayer money coming from Addison Township.
I understand that. That's why I'm in this discussion. I am not questioning the 2.5% proposed increase. I am questioning the justification for it. That's all.
Okay, Pauline, you had a question?
It wasn't just a question. And if you go to the MML website and you would go to the job listing, you can get a comparable there. I also called up Oakland Township, and their deputy clerk makes $25.48 an hour. Our deputies make $21.52. And then a new posting just came up, and this is actually outside of Oakland County, which I was shocked. And it's for a deputy clerk position, $25 to $28 an hour, depending on qualifications. And then my deputy I can't believe he did go, but we always joke that we shook on X amount of years. So there was a job opening in his township. All he had to do was elections, the qualified voter file. So his wages are $44,000, and they were going to pay him like $75,000. No drive time, no nothing. So he likes to work here, and like we do tease each other, we shook on it. So he's going to stay with me, but the wages aren't competitive. And the justification for 2.5, yes, I do see the 1.3, but in my mind, when we are lower than most neighboring communities, you have to at least give them a little incentive there to stay. And that's just my opinion.
I appreciate that, and your comments as well from the chair. But when you look at the deputy clerk's salary and you compute an hourly rate, is that inclusive of longevity pay and insurance in lieu of, which the table you're referring to may not include?
Those wages that I just shared with you don't include their benefits, don't include their defined IRA. It doesn't include their benefits. These were just straight out wages. So if we wanted to go down the road, and it takes a lot of time, which I'm sure you did some of that research, but it's really hard to do apples to apples because everybody does something different. So I was just doing the hourly wages because everybody's benefits are different, and ours aren't horrible, but they're not the greatest either. So that's where I was going with the wages.
Okay, thank you. In regard to that resolution, if I look at page 3, there's 3 pages to the in the board pack. And page 3, if I'm reading this correctly, is you're going to certify that the resolution was adopted on January 13th of 2020. And is this part of a minutes or something that's attached? I don't understand.
No, that's a certification. I just didn't get that far. So those dates would have to be changed. But
yes,
typically every budget is in effect April 1st, 2021 for this one. And the wages don't take into effect unless the budget is actually adopted. So the
yes,
reason why we put this in advance is so I have to have the budget available to the public when we have the public hearing, and we like to have it posted. So we need to know where are we when it comes to some of these numbers so that they can either be changed before I put in the public hearing notice, or we keep them as is. So that's why we're probably doing it now.
Okay, well, I recall the budget approval is late March. And I think the only statutory requirement is for posting early, and correct me if I'm wrong, is if there is an annual meeting of the electors, and we don't have one. So we have a public hearing. So that's why I question it. That's all. And by the way, I very much appreciate the patience of the entire board. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
For asking the questions.
Yeah, Linda had a question. Go right ahead, Linda.
Actually, I did want to point out that the wages in different communities that we are like really, really low. And I think our objective is to slowly increase it so we can kind of meet the other people out there. I mean, having lifetime pensions versus our 401ks, the wage difference, $7, $8 an hour, up to $25,000, $30,000 a year. It's huge. So I think our justification for the 2.5% is to kind of slowly increase so we can meet other communities as far as employee retention. And with that, I'd like to make the motion to approve the resolution adopting fiscal year 2021-2022 22 wage compensation with the corrections on page 3 of dates. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion.
You want me to second it? I'll second it.
We need to address each and every resolution that's there, so could you motion?
Oh, I'm sorry. So I just did the wage resolution, but I would like to also include the resolution for the fire department. Is that correct? And
Fire
then
department, clerk, supervisor, treasurer.
that is correct.
And trustees.
Trustees, of course.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Yes, I'll second it.
Ed Brakefield, trustee Brakefield seconds it. Is there any other discussion on that? Could we have roll call on that, please?
Karen Geibel,
Yes.
Linda Garrick,
Yes.
Ed Brakefield,
Yes.
Chuck Sargent,
Yes.
Lori Fisher,
Yes.
Bennett, yes. Supervisor Pearson.
Yes, resolution is so moved. Okay, we'll go on to item number 4 now. This is approve the public hearing date for 2021-22 budget. This is where we decide when to hold the public hearing for the budget. This is for the public. Typically, we do it in February to allow time to open it up for the public to review it. We will continue to review for the next 2 months, but I'd like to get the public input before we adopt this, and this is a chance at that time for us to listen, okay? A motion would be in order to set the date hearing for February 15th, 2021 at our regular scheduled meeting. Does anybody have any questions on that?
I also move to make a motion that we set the date February 15th, 2021.
Support. Linda Garrett.
We have a motion by trustee Brakefield and a second by trustee Garrick. Is there any other discussion?
That date is February 15, 2021.
Correct. That's for the public
Thank you.
hearing.
Thank you.
Okay, could we have roll call on that, please? Oh, Pauline left us.
No, there was something wrong. It asked me to turn off my camera, so I will for a minute. Linda Garrett.
You got to put your, can't hear you, Linda.
Yes.
Karen Geibel,
Yes.
Ed Brakefield,
Yes.
Chuck Sargent,
Yes.
Lori Fisher,
Yes.
Bennett, yes. Supervisor Pearson.
Yes, and that passes. Okay, we'll go on to item number 5. Appointments for the Planning Commission, 1 member 3-year term through November 30th, 2023, and 1 member partial term, January 31st, 2022. I kind of did this in the wrong order last meeting. I had an awful lot of appointments, but I'd like to reaffirm Eric Sent on the Planning Commission for the available partial term, which is 1/31/22, and renew Carol Benz, who's already on the board. I'm renewing her, and I've spoke with her, and she would love to stay on, and that would last to 11/30/23. So I'm looking for a motion to approve the appointees.
I'll make that motion to approve Eric Sent and Carol Benz as noted for their terms.
Support.
I'll second. Oh, okay, let Linda have it.
Okay, so we had Clerk Bennett put the motion forward and Trustee Garrett seconded the motion. Is there any discussion on the board?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead, Chuck.
I understand the process of these appointees. Are the openings posted, or is it advertised in any way for people who have an interest to contact the supervisor? I mean, or is it just somebody asks?
Somebody comes in and asks, or I ask them. Sometimes I see a really good candidate and I ask them. And these are my recommendations, and we vote on it on the board.
Right. Not to step on that authority, but I'm just curious if there are postings. So the answer is no, correct?
No, these are appointments that I recommend.
Yes. Thank you.
If you remember, I recommended you, correct?
Yes, and we had no discussion after that. Thank you.
Okay, do we have any, looking for a motion here? Did we have a motion put forward?
We got a motion.
And a second. We would need to roll call.
Okay, roll call, please.
Karen Geibel,
Yes.
Chuck Sargent,
Yes.
Ed Brightfield,
Yes.
Linda Garrick,
Yes.
Lori Fisher,
Yes.
Bennett, yes. Supervisor Pearson,
Yes, and that is approved. Okay, we'll move on to item number 6. This is a cemetery maintenance agreement. As you remember, last year we put out these RFPs, as requests for proposals, and we received quite a few responses. But with the COVID, some came in late, and we really didn't get out and communicate with all the bidders. The board rejected all of the RFPs and asked our contractor, which is Sunrise Landscaping, if he would just hold the price, because we were caught short with this COVID, and he held the price at the last 5-year contract. Now I'm looking for RFPs for 2020. The current contractor, when we brought in all of the RFPs, he was by far the lowest bidder by $2,000 or more in savings. He's been doing it as long as I can, since 2008, he's been handling all of the lawn at the cemetery, and he's done an excellent job, more than excellent. If you remember how our cemetery did look, it's absolutely beautiful now. If the board agrees, I'd like to waive the purchasing ordinance, as there's no benefit at this time to seek any more RFPs, and allow the current contractor to continue at the 2020 RFP of the monthly payment of $1,050. And then, so we would first have to waive the advertisement, as there's no benefit to advertise. Linda Garrick?
I would make a motion to waive the purchasing ordinance for Sotheby's Sunrise Services.
I'll second it.
And okay, we have Linda Garrick making the motion. We have Trustee Brakefield second. Is there any other questions on that motion to waive? Not hearing any. Could we please have a roll call on that, please?
Chuck Sargent,
Yes.
Karen Geibel,
Yes.
Lori Fisher,
Yes.
Ed Brightfield,
Yes.
Linda Garrick,
Yes.
Bennett, yes. Supervisor Pearson,
Yes, and that passes. Now, I need a motion to authorize with legal review, the supervisor contract and the contractor enter into the cemetery maintenance agreement with payments of $1,050 for services paid on a monthly basis, terms remaining 3 years with 2 one-year options.
I would make that motion, Supervisor Pearson, as stated.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
And we have, I think it was Trustee Brakefield who seconded it, just one notch before Chuck. So we have a motion by Trustee Garrick and Ed Brakefield. Any discussion on that? Not hearing any. Could we have roll call, please?
Karen Guybo,
Yes.
Rick Sargent,
Yes.
Linda Garrick,
Linda?
Hello?
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
Ed Brakefield,
I'd like to wait a little bit like Linda does. No, yes.
Lori Fisher,
Yes.
Bennett, yes. Supervisor Pearson.
Yes, and that motion passes. You know, someday we're going to look back at this when we have live meetings and we're wondering how we did all this. Okay, so we'll move on to item number 7. Item number 7 is the Restaurant Relief Program interlocal agreement between Oakland County and Addison Township. This is another interlocal between Oakland County and the Township to help the restaurants. Okay, we got some help for Louis' Restaurant and we got some help for the Celtic Knot. Legal reviewed and approved the agreement with Oakland County, but would like the two restaurants also to sign the waiver agreement just so that they are part of this. These are these heaters, these outdoor heaters, and they can get these igloos. It's a grant that the township has to manage, but it's given to the restaurants, and it's an actual grant so that they don't have to pay this back. What I'm looking for is a motion to approve the interlocal with Oakland County and require the participants to sign the waiver agreement. Yes, Ed Brakefield, go right ahead.
If it's okay with you, Supervisor,
Yes.
and it's okay with the rest, if it's okay with the rest of the board, I'd like to request that we make a couple of small changes to
Go right
the waiver. On the very first, whereas, if everybody's got it out, whereas the township has entered into a certain restaurant relief program interlocal agreement with Oakland County, add resolution MR number 20664 to that interlocal agreement. And then down near the bottom, right above now therefore, add one more whereas, and it would say, whereas this waiver is in consideration of the mutual promises, obligations, representations, and assurances in the interlocal agreement. I'd asked our attorney to look at it. It was kind of short notice, but I believe that's taken right out of the actual Oakland County information. So it's not adding anything, but it's just clarification.
Okay. Pauline, do you have that down on your resolution there? Or can you put that in
Yes,
there?
Ed was kind enough to send me a copy, and I did forward it to Mr. Davis, so I do anticipate to hear back. But Ed can ask us to amend that with that sentence in there. That's fine. The only thing I'm wondering if we can't put agreement with Oakland County and the resolution, because I think it's separate. The resolution and the agreement might be separate, Ed.
That would be fine. I didn't rewrite it, but you've got it then, right? And to add the word "and Oakland County." Thank you. Yes, I would appreciate that.
Okay.
And I will hold to make a motion until everybody speaks. But if they would like to make have that modification, that'd be great.
I'd like to make a motion. I think this is really a good benefit for the restaurants throughout Oakland County. I'd like to make a motion to approve the interlocal with Oakland County and also the items as requested on the grant application that's before us, and require the participants to sign the waiver with the amendments that Trustee Brakefield put forth.
I second.
And we have a second by Trustee Sargent and a motion by Clerk Bennett. Any other discussion on that? Not hearing any. Can we have roll call on that, please?
Just a quick question. that need legal review?
Yes, we had that. He's already reviewed part of it, but we'll have him review the additions on there.
Thank you.
You have that, Pauline?
He reviewed the interlocal already. He created the waiver. He said that would be to our benefit to have this waiver. So we don't have any input on at this point. But yeah, if he says no, take it away, then. But I don't see why that would happen.
That's what I'm asking
So
for, is legal review
of the amendment.
Legal review of amendments, yes. Thank you.
Could Linda, I think, who made the motion? Linda, did you make it?
No.
Who made the motion? Well, whoever made the motion, if they could add based on legal review, that'd be fine. With acceptance of legal.
Well, the motion was participant to sign the waiver as amended, and then I can just add the words with legal review for the amendment.
Does
Okay,
Trustee
so
Sargent agree with that amendment to the motion? Is that a second? Support?
okay, who made the first motion? You guys, who made the first motion? Okay, Pauline made the first motion, and Trustee Garrett second the motion, or does that sound right?
No, Chuck
Second.
Chuck would have to accept the amendment.
Do you accept the amendment, Chuck?
Yes.
Okay, so done. Any questions? Not hearing any. Could we have roll call, please?
Karen Geibel,
Yes.
Linda Garrick,
Yes.
Ed Brigfield,
I think I'm going to wait just a little bit. No. Yes.
Lori Fisher,
Yes.
Chuck Sargent,
Yes.
Bennett, yes. Supervisor Pearson.
Yes. Okay, that passes. We'll now move on to public forum. Is there anybody in the public? I don't see anybody in the public, but is there anybody in the public who would like to speak? It will listen at this time. Is there anybody that's coming online from the public who would like to speak? I don't see anyone. So Addison Township Board reports. Anybody on any of the Addison Township boards have anything they'd like to report? We really haven't had any chance for you guys to get into some meetings yet, so.
Well, I would like to say that there is a SISMA meeting Wednesday of this week, which I will attend. And in reading some of the information provided regarding appointments, the hazmat, the no-haz, I have read that a requirement is the township representative is required to be on site 8 hours per day for each of the 4 scheduled collections in the county. If that is the case, how is that reimbursed?
Well, we pay you to go there, okay? But
or is that just voluntary time?
no, we pay you to go to these things. Any of the board meetings that you go to, we pay you to go. I can't hear you, Chuck.
I understand that some of the meetings last 1 or 2 hours, but what they're mandating is an 8 hours presence.
Well, we'll try to get you,
locations.
we'll try to get you a volunteer. If you can't be there the whole 8 hours, we'll try to get a volunteer to go with you.
That works. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Where were we now? That's the Addison board reports. Legal reports or any communications, Pauline? Yep. Pauline has something.
Yes, we touched base on it, but I think it should be formally acknowledged. Wayne Hodges sent a letter out requesting funding from Addison Township Board of Trustees for Marine Patrol.
Well, that's from the Sheriff's Department, from their, I
Well,
talked to the,
so we would need to discuss it next month probably, but I just want to recognize this as correspondence.
Oh, that was a correspondence. I took that as, I got the same email. I took that as that they were presenting the budget of 6,000. And that if we do have money from the restitution fund, that's what the deputies have been always donating. But at this year, because of COVID, they have pretty much been down in a stand down, emergency calls only, and so they haven't made the arrests for the OWIs, which that's where we got our funding, the reimbursements from the court for the time of the deputies used during the course of the arrests and everything. So that's what I took the letter as being. But if the sergeant has any restitution money from the courts, then I will speak with them and see if they want to donate that to the Marine Patrol. Anybody have any comments on that? Nothing? Okay, we'll move on to the Supervisors Report. Well, I'm looking at, usually we would have a spring cleanup. We've received an awful lot of calls of people talking that they want the spring cleanup. I just don't think it's going to be feasible at this time. I don't know where we're going to be with COVID. I don't think we're going to be out of the woods in April or May. Because we usually have it in May for Mother's Day or the Saturday before Mother's Day. But I would like to have it if we get through this COVID thing. And so as of right now, because of the uncertainty, I'd like to just hold off and see if maybe we can have a fall cleanup, and we'll do, I think we do a lot of advertising at that time. But I do have a lot of people that are calling saying they're stockpiling a lot of junk that they're picking up around the township, and they're wondering when we're going to have it. So I'll keep you posted on that. I did get a message from DTE. They're going to be doing a massive tree trimming once again through Addison Township. I'd just like to have everybody talk to their neighbors, make sure that they get permission to get through everybody's, because everybody down the line is depending on how well they do farther up the line. So if we can get all the trees trimmed again, because we've had a few outages, but I believe some of those have started up in Lapeer County. And I'm hoping in our area, we've really done well with these grants with DTE of trimming our trees and keeping our electricity on. So other than that, I don't have any other things at this time. And I'd like to thank everybody. It was a very good discussion. We got a lot accomplished. Thank you for attending. And our next scheduled meeting is February 15th at 6 o'clock. So I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion from Trustee Sargent.
Support.
And we have a second from Treasurer Fisher. Any comments? Okay, we'll need roll call on that, Pauline.
Lenny Garrett.
Is that your cat?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, I didn't know we could have cats and dogs here. But,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay.
Okay. Linda.
Karen
Yeah.
I
Geibel.
said yes.
Oh, she said yes. Okay.
Karen Geibel.
Yes.
Ed Brakefield.
Yes.
Chuck Sargent.
Yes, and go Bucks.
Lori Fisher.
Yes.
Bennett, yes. Supervisor Pearson.
Yes, and we are adjourned. Thank you very much. Next meeting,
Thank you.
February 15th. Thank you.
Good meeting.
Thanks,
Bye,
Bruce.
everyone.